Worst pain I ever felt in my life.
Pain Dukes turned into action this summer, pleading with the community for answers.
What man in his right mind would chase a woman with a baby to murder her?
A pain no mother should ever know.
And they took my baby away after she came home from work. She was still in her
What's
work
good, Dark
uniform.
Secrets family?
They took her
Before we
from
dive
me.
into today's heartbreaking case, I need you to do me a favor. If stories like this matter to you, stories about our community, about justice, about remembering those we've lost, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're here every single day bringing you the truth behind the headlines. Picture this, a Monday afternoon in Miami. The sun is beating down on the Naranja neighborhood and life is moving at its usual pace. But in just a few moments, that peaceful afternoon would be shattered by gunfire that would rock South Florida to its core. A mother's voice, broken by grief, would pierce through the humid air. They took my baby away after she came home from work. She was still in her work uniform and they took her from me. This is the story of LaShante Jones, a 24-year-old TSA officer, a devoted mother, a daughter who meant everything to her family. Today we're uncovering the twisted conspiracy that ended her life. A plot so cold and calculated that it would leave an entire community asking, how could anyone be this evil? But here's what makes this case even more disturbing. The murder was financed with $15,000 in pandemic relief funds. Money meant to help struggling businesses survive became the down payment on an assassination. This is the story of jealousy, revenge, and how federal relief money was twisted into blood money. Born and raised in Miami-Dade, LaShante was the kind of person who lit up every space she entered. Her family and friends all said the same thing about her. She was loyal, she was kind, and she had a smile that could change your whole day. She shared something special with her mother, Darlene Dukes, and her siblings. Family wasn't just important to LaShante, it was everything. Every holiday, every celebration became a reason to come together and remind each other that love was what held them all together. LaShante's path wasn't always smooth. She started working at Walmart, grinding like so many of us have had to do. But she had bigger dreams. The Transportation Security Administration offered her a position at Miami International Airport, her chance to serve, to build something stable, to create the future she'd been working toward. But the greatest moment of her life came on July 7th, 2017, when LaShante became a mother to a beautiful baby girl named Aaliyah. From the second she held that little girl in her arms, everything changed. Anyone who knew LaShante would tell you she absolutely glowed when she talked about her daughter. Balancing a demanding job with raising a young child is no joke, but LaShante handled it with grace and determination. She had dreams of giving Aaliyah the best possible life while still enjoying her own youth. To everyone who knew her, LaShante was that friend who never failed to make you laugh, the neighbor who would wave and ask how your day went, the sister who would always pick up the phone. She was sociable, free-spirited, and had this magnetic personality that drew people in. But sometimes the brightest lights attract the darkest shadows, and someone was watching LaShante from those shadows, someone whose heart was filled with jealousy and rage. May 3rd, 2021, a Monday that started like any other in LaShante's life. She finished her shift at Miami International Airport and had one thing on her mind, picking up 3-year-old Aaliyah from her sister's house. Surveillance cameras captured what happened next. LaShante walking toward their apartment complex in the Naranja neighborhood, her precious daughter safe in her arms, a mother coming home after a day's work, completely unaware that someone had been watching, waiting, planning. She approached their building on Southwest 258th Street near US on 1. Aaliyah was probably chattering away in her arms about her day. Normal 3-year-old things that should have been the soundtrack to a peaceful evening at home. But evil was waiting. From the shadows, a masked gunman emerged. There was no warning, no chance to run. The quiet afternoon was suddenly torn apart by the sound of gunfire. Multiple shots rang out across the apartment complex. LaShante was struck and collapsed right there at the bottom of a staircase, still holding her baby girl. Aaliyah, just 3 years old, was grazed by one of the bullets, but miraculously survived. Neighbors came running at the sound of gunshots. What they found was every parent's worst fear. A young mother lying motionless, her toddler crying out in confusion and pain. Emergency crews arrived as quickly as they could, but it was too late. At just 24 years old, LaShante Jones was pronounced dead at the scene. Little Aaliyah was rushed to Nicholas Children's Hospital, where doctors treated her injuries. Physically, she would recover, but what she witnessed, watching her mother gunned down while in her arms, that's trauma no child should ever carry. At a press conference, Miami-Dade police spoke with urgency. "We're trying to figure out the motive, what caused this type of senseless violence." But investigators quickly realized this wasn't senseless at all. This was cold, calculated, and precise. This wasn't random violence, this was an execution. As detectives began their investigation, what they discovered was far more sinister than anyone could have imagined. This was a murder-for-hire plot that had been brewing for years, fueled by jealousy, revenge, and an obsession that had turned deadly. The name that kept coming up was Jasmine Martinez, and this woman had a history with LaShante that stretched back years, a history filled with violence, threats, and anger that just wouldn't die. But here's where this story takes a shocking turn. Just days before LaShante's murder, Jasmine Martinez had withdrawn $15,000 from a Paycheck Protection Program loan. The PPP loans, federal money designed to help small businesses survive during COVID-19. Martinez allegedly twisted that lifeline into something evil. $10,000 of that money, prosecutors say, was handed over as payment to have LaShante killed. Think about that. While struggling business owners were fighting to keep their doors open, while families worried about paying rent, this woman was using pandemic relief funds to finance an assassination. The alleged triggerman was identified as 29-year-old Javon Carter. What investigators found on his phone was absolutely chilling. A selfie-style video recorded shortly after the murder. Carter is counting thick stacks of cash, smirking at the camera, saying, "Another day in the office. Another day in the office," after killing a mother in front of her 3-year-old daughter. Carter didn't act alone. He was brought into this conspiracy by 35-year-old Romeo Robinson, who served as the middleman between Martinez's vendetta and Carter's willingness to kill for money. As detectives dug deeper, they uncovered a complete paper trail: financial withdrawals, surveillance footage, recorded phone calls from jail where Martinez had made her intentions crystal clear. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was a calculated conspiracy that took months to plan and execute. 3 people came together with one goal: to end LaShante Jones's life. When news broke about the PPP loan angle, public outrage was immediate. The very funds meant to help people survive the pandemic had been perverted into blood money. The toxic relationship between Martinez and LaShante began with jealousy over Martinez's ex-boyfriend, Kelly Nelson. What should have been a simple relationship dispute escalated into something much darker. In 2016, Martinez was arrested after allegedly striking LaShante in the face. 2 years later, in 2018, Martinez was arrested again for assaulting LaShante. By then, personal animosity had crossed into criminal behavior. During one jail stint, Martinez was recorded making a chilling phone call: "She has to die." Not "I'm angry with her" or "I don't like her," but "she has to die." This wasn't trash talk, this was deadly intention. Despite escalating threats and violence, LaShante refused to be intimidated. In 2020, she testified against Martinez and Kelly Nelson after reporting harassment, being robbed, and even held at gunpoint by men connected to them. Think about the strength that took. That bravery came with a price. In February 2021, just months before LaShante's murder, Martinez declared she was ready to kill LaShante, insisting she must die. By March 2021, LaShante was offered money if she would agree not to testify in upcoming proceedings. Martinez needed Nelson out of prison, and LaShante's testimony stood in their way. But LaShante wouldn't be bought, she wouldn't be silenced. In April 2021, just weeks before her murder, LaShante once again took the stand, testifying against Martinez and Nelson in a witness tampering case. That testimony sealed her fate. Prosecutors believe almost immediately after LaShante testified, Robinson contacted Carter to arrange the murder. Recorded conversations revealed the cold calculation. Robinson asked if he can get the number 10 jersey. Carter responds that it is usually 20 to 25. They were speaking in code. The number 10 jersey was LaShante's life. 20 to 25 was the price in thousands of dollars to have someone killed. Let's look at the 3 people who made this conspiracy possible. Javon Carter, 29, the alleged shooter, had already served nearly 6 years for burglary, theft, and firearms. Released in December 2020, just months before LaShante's murder, this should have been his chance to turn his life around. Instead, he became a gun for hire. Carter filmed himself afterward, counting cash and smirking, "Another day in the office." That video became damning evidence, showing not just his involvement, but his complete lack of remorse. Romeo Robinson, 35, the middleman, had served over 11 years for aggravated violence and armed robbery. Released in October 2020, he was arrested again by December for drug trafficking. By early 2021, he was back on the streets recruiting Carter and arranging murder logistics. At the center was Jasmine Martinez, 33, consumed by obsession that lasted years. Her arrest stretched back through multiple incidents with LaShante. She was the mastermind whose jealousy and rage set this deadly chain in motion. These three formed an alliance built on the worst human impulses: greed, violence, revenge, jealousy. Together they created something truly evil, choosing hatred over healing, violence over peace, money over morality. 1 year after LaShante's murder, her mother, Darlene Dukes, described grief most of us can't imagine. "It's been a whole year," she said. "It's the longest I ever been away from one of my children. I miss her calling me. Me and her talked about a lot of stuff, no incoming calls or texts from Mommy's angel. That was taken from us." The silence was the hardest part. No more daily check-ins, no more hearing her daughter's voice. "So when I heard killed her, it's like my body went numb," Darlene remembered. "They broke my chain. They took a link." Now, LaShante's twin sisters, Darnisha and Darniga, help raise little Alaya alongside their own children, working to help her remember love while healing from trauma. They say she remembers the trauma, but they also work to help her remember the love. They show Alaya videos of her mother singing to her, keeping precious memories alive while helping her heal from witnessing the unimaginable. Little Alaya is growing up surrounded by love, but forever missing the one person who should have been there. She'll never have another bedtime story from her mother, never get help with homework from the woman who gave her life. This is the true cost. Not just one life lost, but a family shattered, a child traumatized, and a void that can never be filled. The legal proceedings revealed the full scope of this conspiracy. Martinez faced charges that could result in life in prison. The evidence was overwhelming: recorded calls expressing desire to kill LaShante, financial records of the PPP withdrawal, testimony of her violent history. Carter faced first-degree murder charges. His "Another Day in the Office" video provided prosecutors with unprecedented evidence of callousness. Robinson faced accessory to murder and conspiracy charges. Phone records of conversations about the number 10 jersey clearly showed his role. But this case raised broader questions. How had LaShante's repeated reports not resulted in better protection? Why wasn't Martinez's escalating violence taken more seriously? How could someone use federal pandemic funds to finance murder? The PPP fraud particularly outraged people. While legitimate businesses struggled for loans they desperately needed, Martinez secured $15,000 and used it to pay for assassination. This case highlighted the vulnerability of witnesses in our justice system. LaShante did everything right, reported crimes, testified truthfully, cooperated with law enforcement, but the system failed to protect her, and her courage cost her life. For the Miami community, this wasn't gang violence or drug crime they could dismiss. This was a working mother, a federal employee, someone who should have been safe, killed in broad daylight while holding her child. The murder of LaShante Jones forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about violence against women, witness protection failures, and how hatred can consume people until they're capable of unimaginable evil. LaShante's story isn't just about her death, it's about her life, her courage, her refusal to be silenced even when speaking up put her in danger. She stood for truth and justice, even knowing the cost. Her legacy lives on in her daughter, in her family, and in a community that refuses to forget her. But remembering isn't enough. Her story is a call to action, to demand better protection for witnesses, to take threats seriously before they escalate, to confront the dangers that too often go ignored until it's too late. And now, because LaShante Jones was more than a victim, she was a daughter, a sister, a friend, a colleague, and above all, a mother. Her life mattered. The question we must ask ourselves is this: how many more LaShantes will we lose before we do better? That's today's case. Dark Secrets family. LaShante's story stays with you because it shows how quickly evil can destroy something beautiful. If this story moved you, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments what you think about this case. We'll be back tomorrow with another story that needs to be told. Until then, stay safe out there.